Mike Bohn here with Fortis MMA owner, head coach, manager extraordinaire, Sayif Saud. Sayif, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing all right, man. How you doing?
Hanging in there, man. We are close to a return to somewhat normalcy. UFC 249 coming up this week. You have two fighters on the card. Ryan Spann fighting Sam Alvey in the opener. Of course, Uriah Hall fighting Jacare Souza as well. I guess just tell me, we are a few days out. How has preparation been getting these two fighters ready for this event under these crazy circumstances?
You feel like you got it down, and I don't know how many UFC fights you've had, but it's a lot. And then this happens, and it's a completely just totally changes everything. But I think the guys have done well. We've kind of come up with a system and gotten each guy just one training partner. Uh, a guy that isn't actually actively going out right now or working, and we're real careful about that. We have a real big team, so we found the right guys to get these guys ready. And so basically, they've been doing one-on-ones with partners similar size and skill and all the other stuff to prepare. So, and it's been challenging, but we've been doing it.
Yeah, and I guess I'll start with Uriah a little bit. He was supposed to be on the original version of this car April 18th in
Yeah.
Brooklyn, and then, he was seemingly still going to fight when they were going to do it in California, and then here we are in Florida and, still on the card. Just talking with him through this whole process, and I'm sure the, push and the pull of aiming the weight cut for April 18th and pulling it back for this. What are just the things you've had to do and keeping Uriah on track for these changing dates, all that kind of stuff?
I mean, you just nailed it, right? I mean, you just said it. The hardest part is cutting the weight, and Uriah doesn't cut a lot of weight. He's in great shape. I mean, I feel good about his shape, and he's been training hard for this fight for a long time. But it's the mental of going up and down and up and down and up and down that was hard for these guys. So I've just made it real fun these last few weeks, man. And I told them, I said, we're going to just have fun in here. We're a really small group. It's already weird as hell. I'm standing 10 yards away, and you know it's just the mood is already, with all this stuff going on, is already enough stress for everybody. It really is. Subconsciously everybody's stressed out too about it. So you got to make it fun, man. And we've been having a lot of fun in the gym, and once you have fun, you remember why you even started training in the first place and why you do it anyway. And I think that that's really been key for us.
Yeah, and you mentioned having fun and everything, but your gym and we've talked about this before, just your approach to coaching and how hard you like to work the guys in that room and everything, and the girls. When you have such a limited number of people, the different bodies, the different looks, and everything, just how does that impact the general training environment?
Well, it's just another challenge, right? I mean, here I was getting ready for this fight, long before that. So he's gotten a lot of good goes. And Span also had like two camps really, because he was going to fight in London and then he didn't. You know that whole thing. So these guys are already in really good shape. So I'm happy with the grind that they put in before even all this happened. So now it's all just more about detail work. Span has switched opponent 3 times. He was going to fight OSP, and then that got bumped, and then he's going to fight Paul Craig, and then that got bumped, and now he's fighting Sam Alvey. So we've had to do a little bit of, changing up some of the things that we're going to do there. But Uriah's had the same opponent, so they're both ready to rock.
Yeah, and speaking of Ryan, I mean, he's the first one on the card opening up the night. He's going to be, participating in the first UFC fight we're going to see in almost 2 months. As you mentioned, that rapid change of opponent, Sam Alvey, tricky veteran, almost 50 fights and everything. Where's his mindset at through all the opponent changes, and then obviously going in there to kind of set the precedent for the show after such a long layoff for the UFC?
Yeah, Ryan's good, man. He doesn't think about stuff like that. Like, he's not a guy that's going to be like, man, wow, everybody's going to be watching that fight, because everybody is going to be watching that fight. I mean, people might not watch prelim fights before, but I think every single one of those fights is going to get watched on that card. So he's the type of guy, he doesn't really let pressure get to him. Sam Alvey's got a lot of power too. He's a southpaw. So, we're just focused on the challenge at hand, and Ryan's super focused.
Yeah, and you mentioned neither of these guys, cut a dramatic amount of weight, but in terms of you still do have to do the weight cut. How has this whole thing evolved on that front? And I'm not sure how much you know about what type of setup you guys are going to be walking into in Jacksonville, but what kind of precautions and just all those things are you taking to make sure that the weight cut is not really an issue, especially under these kind of limited conditions?
Well, the guys are getting their weight down earlier, you know. So it's really not going to be a problem. We can mitigate the circumstances by taking control on our side here now, the week before and losing the weight a little bit faster. And the UFC is going to provide everybody, I think, their own sauna, their own area, their own everything. The UFC is trying to pull out all the stops for this thing and make sure everybody is comfortable and has all their own equipment. So it actually might work out just fine. But we don't cut a lot of weight, and that's, we never miss weight. That's not something that we do, and we pride ourselves in that. And so we're not worried about the weight cut.
Yeah, what's the corner situation going to be like? We thought maybe at first it was going to be super limited, maybe like one person, but now it's kind of come out that there's an opportunity to have full corners. So are you bringing fellow coaches, or is it pretty much just going to be you?
No, our strength coach is coming, Mike Scatia, he's, critical. The guy is a mastermind at what he does. I think he's the best in the world. I really do. I mean, so much of our success this last few years is due to his hard work, and I mean, the guy's amazing. So he's going to come. Clayton Hires is going to come. My guy Clayton is the man. He's going to be coming. And Ryan's brother, who's been there for him for every single fight, will be there too. So, yeah, we'll have the crew with us.
Nice. And just your opinion generally, doing fights under these conditions and everything. I know how you said UFC's seemingly doing everything to make sure this is a healthy, safe environment for everyone involved. But how do you just feel about it? Are you pretty comfortable with what's to come ahead in this next week? Or is there still some level of reservation?
I mean, I went out yesterday for the first time to the gun range, right? And everybody was out and keeping their distance, but everybody was out. And the end of the day, it's like, man, we got to get moving again. I mean, we have to. We can't be crippled by fear and just sit and wait and wait and wait and wait, because if we do, I mean, the gym has been getting crushed. I know so many people that have been getting just crushed by this. And it's not about money, but it's just about life too. People are down in the dumps. People are depressed. People are drinking way more than they were. There's so many things because everybody's so stressed out and subconsciously worried. It's the first time I think as Americans that our security, our individual security feels like it's been threatened, by this virus. So I think it's really important, man, that we, just kind of move on and try to push through it, obviously in an intelligent way. We're not opening the gym until the 18th of May. And the reason why is, I want people to get comfortable and kind of see what's going on around them. And, let's wait and see what happens the next few weeks. And, hopefully the confidence goes up with the public a lot, by seeing, people aren't, dying and or maybe the virus doesn't spike. But we got to wait and see. But the UFC, May 9th, I mean, it's got to happen. April 18th, I can understand people saying, oh, this is too soon. But, I mean, how you got 15 states that are open now, as of May 1st. By May 9th, I mean, the country's going to be moving. You got people going to the malls. You got people doing all this other stuff. If people can go to the movies, then I think, and we're all athletes. We're all really aware of, our bodies and we're all pretty health conscious too. So I think that the time of this is totally fine. And I support the UFC 100% on it. I really think that all of us need to try to get back to normal life as much as we can. And, if things start turning ugly, well, man, obviously we gotta, we have to go back to quarantine, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess just going forward, based off everything you said there and reopening the gym and everything, I can't imagine any time in the near future you're going to be able to run a practice with like 40 people in the room or, kind of doing things like you normally would. So have you thought far ahead to how that's going to work?
Yeah.
How you're going to run the gym, so to keep things going there?
The plan for the gym is going to be just like fitness-based stuff. for the first month when we come back, really just kind of focusing on, getting back in shape, conditioning, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to stagger the times where people come in. We're going to offer different classes at different times that we usually don't offer, at 6 a.m. We're going to offer at 12 p.m., at 6 p.m., at 7 p.m. We're just going to spread it out. And we're only going to have 10 people in at a time in a class, which is fine. We can do that, no problem. Or we have a pretty big gym, so we could run people on the back mats, and they would be totally separate from the other people. When we have a lot of outside areas too, the whole rooftop is all grass, artificial grass that we've done. So we have training sessions up there too. We're going to be creative about it and just wait and see what's going on with science and with the statistics and just what everything else is happening. And we got Alonzo fighting sometime in June, I'm pretty positive, and we'll have to get him ready. But no one else is really. We don't have a really heavy schedule right now because obviously the chaos of what's going on. So we're just gonna take it day by day, man. Just like every other American, and do our best together as a team to get it done.
Sure, that seems like a smart plan. And just to switch gears back to 249 a little bit, this was something I was curious about. Not saying I'm speaking, specifically to Uriah or Ryan or anything, but just in general. I mean, we're going to have these events with no crowds now, and that's obviously going to change the environment. I was just curious, we talked so much about there's these gym heroes, quote unquote, so the guys who really can perform in the gym when there's no one watching and it's not the bright lights. Do you think that changes anything for those people on fight night? Obviously there's still the bright lights, but there's no crowd. There's not that same type of pressure. Do you think maybe we're going to see some fighters' performances impacted, maybe for the better, for the worse, with these no crowd situations?
I mean, I think so. I think for my guys, I think they're just pretty mature in the game. I don't think it will affect them. Mm-hmm. I do think when it comes to the judging, it's important. We're fighting a guy that's very, very tough, Jacare, and very good everywhere. Got real heavy hands, but obviously his ground is the real dangerous threat, whereas in Uriah's stand-up is pretty dangerous. So I think that in that sense, when you have an audience and you get hit and the audience reacts, it could affect the judges. That won't be the case. So I think, a lay and pray tactic or, holding on, I think that could change things. If there's no audience feedback, the referee might let it go longer. Little things like that everyone kind of can assume anyway. But as far as the fighters waning in there with their own motivation, I don't think that will be the case. But I think it could affect some people. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And in terms of your coaching and everything, obviously you're very loud in the corner. The fighters can hear you normally, but when pretty much everyone can hear you now, the opposite corner, the broadcast, all that kind of stuff is going to be able to pick up what you're saying more easily than normal. Do you adjust any strategies in the corners in terms of maybe code words or anything like that, or are you just going to approach it the same way as always?
Well, I mean, we've been using codes for years now, and of course. And the thing is, it's really just like a contender fight, and the contender's pretty quiet, as you know. There's nobody there, and you can hear everything. So I've had this situation, something similar to it many times. And, even if you go out to a fight in an LFA and, you got a young kid fighting on the prelim and he's the second fight, there's nobody there, so we're used to that. Being able to corner and when there's no other audio feedback and kind of adjusting our volume. But I think, as long as the guys can hear the instructions, and I just feel like you need to be able to communicate and be clear and concise with your guys. I mean, it's like if you're in there and bullets are coming at you and you're dodging them and punches and kicks and all this stuff, you want to be able to hear, your corner. And so I think it's important to make sure that you can adjust however you need to, whether you look cool or whether you don't look cool, whatever you need to do for your guy who's trained so hard to win that fight, you need to try to do. So I think that this situation is unique, but I think the guys are going to be able to hear nice, loud, and clear. And I don't know if Jacare's team is going to be waiting to hear what we say and then tell him in Portuguese. I don't think that's going to happen. So we're not too worried about it.
Yeah. Fair play. And now, future, speaking of that fight, if Uriah wins, I mean, that's a huge win for him. I know he wants this Israel Adesanya fight like so badly. It's his dream fight. He wins this fight, he's going to be talked about as a contender and everything. How far do you think he is from really being in that title conversation if he can win this one?
I mean, that's just an awesome fight. Like everybody says that too. Like, that's an awesome fight. Like, people could say whatever they want about Uriah. He's had an up and down career. Look at the guys he's fought. He has fought all of the toughest dudes, man. Whitaker, Costa, Weidman back in the day. I mean, he's just fought everybody. Mousasi twice. Like, that dude has fought some tough comp. So he's used to fighting the guys at that level, right? But now he's had this resurgence and this, he's focused. He's training his ass off. He's at the gym constantly. He's staying at the gym right now. And I feel like he's ready, man. He's mature, and his physically continues to improve in an unbelievable pace because of Coach Mike Scacia, all the strength work and everything else. It's like physically the guy's like the fastest I've ever seen him, the strongest I've ever seen him, because he's dedicated so much time to it. And it was that everybody's saying on Uriah, like, oh, he's so skilled, but we just don't know how dedicated he is. Well, seeing him dedicated is an impressive thing, and I just feel like he could do it, and I think he can beat Israel, and I think he's got way better hands than Israel does, and I think Uriah's dangerous on the feet, but that's not taking anything away from Israel. Israel's the champ, and he's the man, and he's awesome, and I mean, he had a real close fight with Kelvin, which Uriah had a real close fight with Kelvin back in the day too. So I mean, all those guys at middleweight are super dangerous, and I think Uriah can do it, though, man. I think because of his speed and his physicality and how he continues to improve all of his already very impressive abilities, he's dangerous. I mean, he is just a dangerous guy.
Yeah, that'd be a super fun one if he could get it one day. And then in terms of Ryan, I mean, Ryan Spann, if he wins this, I think he'd be the first light heavyweight to start 4-0 in the UFC since maybe Dominic Reyes, which kind of shows the potential there. Sam Alvey, as we talked about earlier, tough guy, but what do you feel like Ryan's ceiling is maybe in these next couple of years? Of course, you want to push every guy into being a champion, but it seems like he's comfortable taking kind of the slow and steady approach there.
Well, I mean, certain guys, you look at him and you're like, this guy just has the size, the speed, and the skill. And Ryan Spann is that guy. I mean, he is 6'5", big, strong, fast. It's not hard for him to make 205. He's, 17-4, I think. He had a lot of amateur fights. Just a guy that's been around. We've already been knocked down the mountain. Remember we lost that contender fight a few years ago to Roberson in like 20 seconds. And I saw Ryan that day say, we'll be back. And I said, yes, we will. And I said, our plan is to be back in 1 year exactly. We're going to win 4 or 5 fights. Maybe you get the LFA belt, come back. And he did all of that. He's already had his trials and tribulations. And those guys are dangerous because they have the experience. They have the experience of losing, and they have the experience of coming back and becoming stronger. And Ryan is that guy right at the right spot in his career. I think he can beat any light heavyweight. And I'm comfortable saying that. The only other one that I think is a big challenge for him right now is Alonzo Minifield, but they're on the same team. So Alonzo is dangerous too. So Ryan, I think, hopefully this fight goes well, and, he can find a top 10, top 15 opponent. I mean, everybody's very tough at 205, but Ryan's young too. He's only 28. I just think it's his time is coming.
For sure. And you mentioned Alonzo there. You said earlier he might be back in June. A couple of your other fighters I wanted to ask you about before I let you go. Jeff Neal, obviously coming off a sensational win over Mike Perry. He's been calling out, some of the big names in the welterweight division. Any progress with him? And are we getting close to a big name fight for Jeff Neal finally?
I love our community, and even the guys that say no, they're like, I don't have nothing to do with that dude. I mean, people do not want to fight Jeff. They just don't. No, who's called out Jeff? Nobody.
Mike Perry for a rematch.
Mike Perry I don't think he's serious though. I mean, who knows if he's serious or not? But and I don't blame him. I would not want to have to deal with Jeff. I mean, he's just, it's like I said, certain guys get that champion element around them, and they're just dangerous. And Jeff is dangerous. I mean, he's so big and strong and fat. He is another guy that's continued to get bigger and stronger and faster. And when I first got him, he was young, and I mean, he was built, but not really. But I mean, now he just keeps developing. And again, it goes back to Coach Mike Scatia. This guy's unbelievable, man. He's a mad scientist, and these guys are so dedicated to their strength and conditioning program. It's unreal. And I mean, it's like torture. It's like signing up for torture and saying, yeah, I'm going to go torture myself for an hour, and then doing it, 3 or 4 times a week, voluntarily. And they're going crazy. They love it. And even Jeff, when he went to Killeen to stay with his parents for a little bit and take care of him when all this happened. He had Coach Mike sending him these workouts and FaceTiming him, and then he went and got like med balls, and he calls me from like Dick's, and he's like, "Hey, Coach, I think I'm gonna get a bag. I think I'm gonna get a bag." And the guy's like, he's talking to me on the phone, and the guy's like, "No, we can't sell you that, man. That's a display model." And I go, "Let me talk to him." I go, "You know who that is?" I told the guy, because Jeff's so quiet, man. You'd never know he fought. He's such a quiet guy. I go, "That guy's one of the best welterweights in the world in the UFC." And the other kid comes and goes, "Oh, yeah. No, we'll sell him the bag. We'll sell him the bag." So Jeff got all this equipment and was doing like crazy amounts of work in his garage. I was talking to him, he was sending it to me, and Coach Mike, he's ready, man. That guy's ready. And, we'll fight anybody. We'd fight Colby right now. We'd fight Woodley. We'd fight anyone right now. I'm so confident in Jeff. Kamaru, I know and love very much. I train his brother, and Kamaru is no joke. And, you're going to have to be ready to fight him one day, because I don't see anybody beating him. He's so determined and dedicated. And him and Jeff know each other and are cool and are close. And also now we have Razak back, who Razak at welterweight is a scary guy too. So, yeah, we're just waiting for opportunities. But with Jeff, there's nobody's lining up for that one. So, and he can only be, him calling people out is like as bad as he gets. He's just not that guy that's going to start talking shit and start insulting people. That's just not his character. And I told him, I said, just be you, man. Like, you don't need to become that way. I think Robbie Lawler was a great champion. He never changed who he was. You remember that. He never got crazy and loud, and he just stayed himself. And I feel like Jeff can do that. I feel like when you knock people out like that and you're that violent, like, no one's going to give a shit what your personality's like. If you put people away, people are going to want to watch you. So,
absolutely. Well, hopefully we can get someone for him soon. Maisie Chase on. How's she doing? Are we looking to get her back in there soon?
she's good, man. I mean, she fought, I think right before this all happened, kind of a few weeks before, February, I think it was. I can't keep track anymore, but she's good. It's like I say, she's growing up in the UFC. I mean, she was 2-0 when we got her in the Ultimate Fighter. We barely got her in because she was only 2-0. But I told the UFC, I said, I really think this girl's special. I really think she can do great things. And she went on to, win her first 3 fights impressively, and won her last fight, and she's 4-1. But I'm patient, with whatever comes. There's a lot of tough girls, and everyone thinks that there's not a lot. Those girls are all in the top 5 and 10 are tough. So whatever comes, and we're gonna continue to build her, and eventually, I think she's the one that could compete for a title. But she's still got to continue to mature and just get ring time and grow as a martial artist.
Awesome. And last person I wanted to ask you about, Diego Ferreira. He beat Anthony Pettis, who was fighting this weekend. He called out Alexander Hernandez, who was fighting Drew Dober. Why can't he get a fight? Where's he at? When are we going to see him against who?
To be fair, he was supposed to fight Drew Dober. And with all this crap happened, it changed everything, right? Mm-hmm. His gym got sealed. They put a seal on his gym's door. He was in there training with Vic Martinez, Vic the Brick. You'll see him too. He's beyond the contender, a real tough kid. He was training with him, and they were just doing jits. And they left the door open, and the fire department came in. And I guess down South Texas, they're being like dictators about all this. And they said, hey, man, we're going to put a seal on your door. So they actually put a seal on his door, covered his door. And I said, the only way you can get this back is you got to go through the city, and you got to go to talk to some board, and they've got to approve it. And like, so, I mean, you know, he's sitting there stuck at the house. I mean, he can't really do a lot, you know, I mean, he can't even go train just with one guy, you know, so, and, you know, he's far away from us. So he'd have to drive up here and stay here. So we're just kind of waiting to see what clears out. He's been hit particularly hard by this, as he's a gym owner as well. And he was in the middle of building a house, and this is his dream. You know, this guy comes from Manaus. He comes from the jungle. He comes from not a lot. And he was working. The reason that Pettis fight was so big for him was because he started to build his house. And that's his real goal, is to build a house for his family. And so he's going through a tough time right now with this, but he'll be back. And he's another guy but that 155 top 10 is monsters. But he's a guy that I think could compete with anybody right now at lightweight. I mean, he's on a 7-fight win streak, and he's dangerous, man. And he continues to improve as well.
Awesome, man. We'll send him our best. Hopefully everything, works out for him sooner than later, and, we can get him a fight soon and back to making money and all those things. So that's great, man. Well, either way, first up, UFC 249, some big fights for you there next Saturday night. Really looking forward to seeing what Uriah and Ryan can do in there, and wishing you the safest of trips and travels and fight results and everything.
Thank you very much, sir.